driven sports cars from the late 60s, both English and American. You may not get the reference, but this is in reference to RPGs and retroclones. Here's the thing. Uh, I the retroclones seem like an interesting tool to circumvent some astronomical prices and let everybody have access to certain material from the past, OSR. It's become now this fad where everybody goes, here's my retro clone, but is it really a clone, or is it, well, I never liked this about this old game, so I'm going to massage it. It's just a variant. What it ends up being is home rules. And OSR, if you're looking to live the life of gaming circa 70s and 80s, no, people didn't charge you when they made house rules. First of all, before the internet, the only way you exchange them is face to face. And then it was normally, well, here's how we do it at our home, which ended up being, here's what we have for turkey dinner versus you on Thanksgiving. Maybe you have cornbread, we have, casserole or whatever the hell. But when the internet came around, even in the beginnings of it, people weren't charging you for this shit. They were FTPing it to one another and posting it on their GeoCities and stuff like that because, it was just ideas to exchange. So, what does that have to do with classic cars? Well, there's this thing then. You get these people who go, well, the retro clones make it more easy to interpret. Look, man, yeah, there was a lot of bad editing. But most of the, it's too hard to interpret is, it doesn't have pretty pictures in between the words. Yeah, just read the shit. Christ, it just becomes kind of a thing about being lazy more than anything else. And, the same people that say that stuff, you'd hand them something today in a blog post and they'd probably just give you that 4-letter bullshit about TLDR. Here's the thing. If you want to be old school, if you want to, live the original life, drive the original vehicle, and that's why the Austin Healey's up here. I've been through this with people in classic cars. Now, you can buy some upgrades. There's a transmission that's based on a Toyota Supra, if I remember right, that you can change out the original transmission because you didn't have synchro mesh in the original transmission in these Healeys, and that could be a pain in the ass. People have ways to pull out the old AM radio, which wasn't worth a shit. You weren't, the only way you were getting signal out of that sumbitch is if you were standing next to the tower. It was useless. And they put in some tape deck or something like that. And that may seem cool because now you can cruise with the tunes, but you're taking the original and you're modifying it, and it's like, it's like painting over a Picasso. Well, I think it's better. Is it though? Is it? All these creature comforts. And it's just, it modernizes the thing, it brings down the value, and it destroys a piece of history because not a lot of these vehicles are left. And every time you bastardize them into some half-assed modernized version, you've ruined one. So, if they weren't comfortable, the thing has no firewall. So if you want to drive this thing around town and stop and go traffic, enjoy, because it's fucking hot, Of course, that didn't matter as much in England, but if you're in, Austin, Texas, where I got mine, get ready to sweat your nutsack off and that sumbitch trying to go through city traffic. Plus, without that synchro mesh, it's work to drive that thing. The clutch isn't exactly for the petite-footed. So, but it's awesome when you get this bitch going. And no, it's not going to blow your doors off. It ain't no Ferrari, Don't push it past 100 too hard or it'll blow up in your face. But if you want to just cruise down the highway, you got a sweet sound, when this thing downshifts, it's got a great noise. It's a pretty little car. It turns a lot of heads. And as long as you don't have to go too slow or too fast, you can really have some fun in this thing. So none of those cars from the era were enjoyable as far as comfort. They all had something, you know, a lack of power. Say, try a Chevy Chevelle with no power steering or something like that. You know, these kind of things. They all had their idiosyncrasies. And I know I had a friend of mine who had a Corvette of like I think it was a 63 or something like that. And he loved that car. But as he got older, he got tired of, you know, all the bullshit that came. It rode like a truck. There wasn't anything sports car about the ride of that thing. It had really shitty seats. They weren't comfortable at all. And you really had to be strong. It wasn't, you know, you couldn't be some lightweight. That thing was, you were wrestling that bitch. You know, they were meant to run. They were meant to sprint. If you got the thing out in the track and could air it out, it was a little bit of a different performance envelope. But it wasn't fun. But that's just the way it was. If you're looking for history, then look for the way it was. If you're looking to manhandle, manipulate, and mar history, then what the hell is old school about that? There's, you know, so that's why I've firmly come down against more retroclones. Make whatever you want, but stop calling it that, because it isn't. Yeah, you know, it's your version of a game based on, I played this game, but here's a laundry list of shit I didn't like, so I changed it and called it something else. That's okay. Then just call it that. But when you call it, here's what you're doing. Just like a lot of these cliches and bullshit. If you tell somebody that everything is too hard and too complex, then what you're doing is you're robbing from other people that want to play, have a certain experience. Because you're acting as if you're some expert and you're talking factually about your opinion on something. If you say it's too hard, if you say it's too complex, that's your perception, that's your opinion. That's why people get pissed off when they start talking about fun, because there are a lot of people in this hobby who will dictate to you what's fun. Well, I don't, you know, nobody wants to, that game isn't fun. Isn't fun for you, but not for everybody else. But unfortunately, people tend to listen to others like, well, I want an informed opinion, so I'll ask an expert. So some dipshit comes up and says he's an expert because he claims he's been playing for 40 years, but he hasn't. He might have played one 40 years ago, but he's no 40-year expert in the thing. But he'll talk the talk and bullshit, and anybody who challenges him, he'll get snotty with. I know the type, they're all over, especially go to wargaming. Shit, the leftists. And yes, politics matters. Deal. And they'll really get snooty with you, but they don't really know half as much as they're talking about. But they'll throw that expert opinion out, and they'll shoot down somebody else's hard-earned work because they don't like it. And then the new person will go, well, that must be true. Everybody says it. And what we've got is this decline in intellectual acumen and depth and scope, and this continued watered down bullshit to the point where we're playing fucking tiddlywinks and we think that we're really smart people for playing tabletop. It's a bunch of bullshit. I'm really quite sick of it. So if you want to play old school, go find this shit. Now, as far as it costing a lot of money, it doesn't. We all know where it is. We all know how to get it. Don't give me that bullshit about reading something on the screen. There's all sorts of ways. Christ, my Windows 7 had a magnifying glass. You've got a printer, you've got a Kindle, you've got a phone, you've got some way that you can do it. I understand that maybe staring at a screen for too long might be a little bit hard on the eyes, even for the young people, but there's ways to mitigate that. But and why say, well, you know what, that free shit hurts my eyes, so I'll go spend $250 on that brand, you know, fuck that. It sounds to me like you're looking for an excuse not to get involved in it, but you don't want to sound like you're short shifting it, so you just go, oh yeah, I'd love that shit, but there's so much fronting and ego in these games, and it screws so much stuff up because everybody's got to swing their Johnson instead of just talking. So BOSR, oh no, now I've touch the Broser thing, and I don't even want to get into those people. A lot of those guys talk a lot of shit until you challenge them, then they whine and pussy and hide behind block. Boy, they're real aggressive and real fanatic, and they really know what they're talking about until you tell them that they're full of shit, and then boom, then they run and hide. because they're, but anyway, it's just another example of ego and fronting. So I've been around for a long time. Nobody's heard of me because I was out making a living for myself, and it wasn't in gaming. I sure shit wish it was back in the day. There's some guys out there, some of them still follow me that, I seen from time to time at the conventions and stuff like that. I know who they are, and I was there all the years they were and stuff like that. But and they were lucky enough because they were talented enough, and they got the opportunity to work in the field. That's kick ass. But and I was one of the guys that was buying their shit back in the day. So I've got my level experience too, but I don't have my name in print. Too busy working for a living. But now I don't have the opportunity to work for a living, and that's a long story that is frankly nobody's business. But and I was trying to look for an opportunity to be one of those guys that works in gaming, but shit ain't like that anymore, is it? So, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, I'm not going to get condescended to by people half my age that think they know what they're talking about when they aren't. Circa a lot of the people in Broster. Not all of them, but just a couple of them at least. And I really don't want to hear any more about time and complexity. It is just the most insufferable, obnoxious bullshit argument. But and I know I can't dictate to you this to you, so I don't care. It's a rant. Deal with it. If you don't want to listen to it, don't listen to it. You wouldn't listen to it if I had something constructive to say anyway. So I did read where negative shit does better on the internet than positive shit anyway. So, but it's true. I'm tired of this. At this point, retroclones are the same as remakes in movies, TV, and video games. You're just taking something that was fine 40 years ago and fucking it up and saying that you're making it better, and you're not. Not because you suck, but because what you're trying to fix was just fine the way it was. Not everything was perfect about this car, but they're worth 65 grand now because they're fucking awesome, even with the negatives. Leave it the fuck alone. Go find something new. Go find something original and try to market that. It would be a lot more contributive to the hobby and would be a lot more impressive than just trying to reformat text that is hard to read.